Hello folks, my name is LazierBandit and welcome to another Let's Play. This is a Kojima Productions game, and you've guessed it, probably by looking at the title. We are going to be playing Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, one of my favourite Metal Gear games, but bugger it, they're all amazing. I say they're all my favourite. This is actually a prequel to the rest of the games, so we're going to jump straight into it with a new game. Okay, so you get all these options at first when you start a new game, and basically you get different starting scenarios. Well, very slightly different based on which one you pick. We'll go for MGS2 actually, because that's the funniest opening. And let's get straight into it on normal difficulty, because I'm not feeling that brave.
After the end of World War II, the world was split into two, East and West. This marked the beginning of the era called the Cold War.
August 24th, 1964, so we have rather gone back in time.
20 minutes to drop off.
Commencing internal depressurization. Equipment check. Arm main parachute.
All right. You ready to go?
Drop zone still showing a high pressure mass. Cav okay.
Good. We've got high visibility.
And who is this smoking away on a cigar?
Connecting oxygen hose to interior connector. Put on your mask.
Raiden? Surely not. In 1964? This makes no sense.
Police know what he's doing?
Panty waist. Charming.
Approaching release point. 10 minutes to drop off.
Hey, are you deaf?
He said put out the cigar and put on your mask.
Slow-mo cigar throw. It's when you know you're a badass.
Depressurization complete.
Checking oxygen supply.
6 minutes to drop off. Opening rear hatch.
I love how it says Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater on the helmet. That's just such a cool touch. And the score, once again, by Harry Gregson Williams, is fantastic, the music in this game.
2 minutes to drop off. Stand up.
Including the best theme song ever, hands down.
130 miles per hour. Try not to get frostbite from the wind chill.
1 minute to drop off.
I'll try my best. That's such a weird thing to say. It's not like you try to get frostbite.
The world's first halo jump.
10 seconds to drop off. Stand by. Status okay. All green.
Prepare for drop off. Countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Spread your wings
And fly. God be with you.
Geronimo! Oh, I just love the opening cutscene to this game, it's so badass. Straight into the action, leaping out of an aeroplane. And the game is of course directed by the genius Hideo Kojima.
Jack, I've got some important news. The head of the CIA has finally given us the green light for the virtuous mission.
Virtual mission?
No, the Virtuous mission. The future of our Fox unit depends on it. If it succeeds, we'll be officially organized into a unit.
Virtuous mission? Sounds like some kind of initiation ritual.
You know, don't get cocky. This isn't a training op.
Right. So what exactly is this wonderful mission?
Well, about 2 years ago, a certain Soviet scientist requested asylum in the West through one of our moles. His name is Nikolai Stepanovich Sokolov. He's head of the OKB-754 Design Bureau, one of the Soviets' top-secret weapon research facilities, and the East's foremost expert on weapons development.
Sounds like an important man.
Isn't he that famous rocket scientist?
The very same. On April the 12th, 1961, the Soviets achieved the first manned spaceflight in history.
The Earth was blue, but there was no God.
Well spoken. The rocket that carried Yuri Gagarin into orbit was the A-1, known as the Vostok rocket. Sokolov is said to be the man most responsible for the multi-engine cluster used in that rocket. After Gagarin's flight, Sokolov left rocket development to become the head of the newly established Design Bureau.
From a lowly technician to head of a design bureau, that's quite a success story, so why do you want to defect?
It seems he'd become afraid of his own creations.
Afraid?
Call it a crisis of conscience.
And for that, he left his country and his family behind and went over the fence?
Not exactly. One of his conditions was that his family was also to be taken safely to the West. We used a mole to get the family out first, and succeeded in sneaking Sokolov over the Berlin Wall shortly afterwards. I was the one who conducted the operation.
The security on the eastern side was still full of holes back then. Then what?
We got Sokolov over in one piece, but the whole ordeal had left him exhausted, and we checked him into a hospital in West Berlin. It took him 2 weeks and more than 600 miles to get from the research facility in the Soviet Union to Berlin. He was in no condition to say anything coherent. And it was only a week later that we had something much bigger on our hands.
The Cuban Missile Crisis.
October the 16th.
The Cold War, if you've not studied it, is actually a fascinating period of history.
The Soviets were in the process of deploying intermediate-range ballistic missiles in Cuba. The president demanded that the Soviets dismantle and remove the missiles. At the same time, he announced a naval blockade to prevent further missile shipments from reaching Cuba. But the Soviets didn't back down, instead placing their armed forces on secondary alert. Soviet transport ships carrying missiles continued on course towards Cuba. US and Soviet forces went on alert for an all-out nuclear war. Frantic negotiations were conducted through the UN's Emergency Security Council and unofficial channels to end the hair-trigger standoff. Finally, on October the 28th, the Soviet Union agreed to remove its missiles from Cuba, and so the world avoided a nuclear holocaust. But in order to get the Soviets to pull their missiles out, we had to make a deal.
You mean the one where the US agreed to remove its IRBMs from Turkey?
No. The Jupiter IRBMs deployed in Turkey were obsolete, and we were going to get rid of them anyway. They had no strategic value whatsoever to either the US or the Russians. The Turkey deal was a ruse, a cover story that was fed to the other intelligence agencies around the world.
So what did the Russians really want?
Sokolov. They wanted us to return Sokolov.
You mean the Soviets pulled out of Cuba just to get their hands on Sokolov?
That's right.
What the hell was he working on?
At the time, we had no idea. We were running out of time. It was either give up Sokolov or risk full-scale nuclear war. In the end, we had no choice. President Kennedy gave in to Khrushchev's demand. The next day, I got Sokolov out of the hospital, handing him over to agents on the eastern side. Sokolov kept on screaming, "Save me," until he disappeared from my side.
Poor guy, so he thought he'd got out of there, and then straight back he went.
One of our moles.
About Sokolov?
Yes. He was taken back to the research facility and forced to continue working on the weapon in question under KGB supervision. What's more, it's on the verge of completion.
So what kind of weapon is it? Something to do with space rockets?
No, missiles.
Same technology.
I guess you're right. We don't know the details, but it appears to be a new kind of nuclear device. For half a year now, the Soviets have been conducting frequent nuclear tests at Semipalatinsk.
Something to do with the weapon, I assume.
We're talking about a secret weapon so big that Khrushchev was ready to pull out of Cuba to get it back.
Is Sokolov still in the facility?
No. According to our intelligence, he's in Selino-Yarsk, a place in the mountains about 3 miles to the west that's known as the Virgin Cliffs.
The Virgin Cliffs. Nice name for a virtuous mission.
They moved him there just recently.
Why?
Apparently, they're conducting a field test of the weapon, but it's our best chance to get him back. This mission would never have been possible if he was still in the research facility. This is our last chance. Sokolov must have known that too when he contacted us.
So what's really interesting is basically how they fuse real-world history with this taking place in the 60s during the Cold War. They fuse the real-world history of the Cuban Missile Crisis with obviously this fictionalized version of events, but it just like gives what you're doing such weight in the world and like just really places it well within the context of the Cold War. Which is a really good touch. It's not something I really picked up the first time I played this game because I hadn't studied the Cold War or anything.
Our mission is to infiltrate Selino-Yarsk in the Soviet mountains.
But it is really interesting.
And bring him back to the west.
This game also has these sort of occasional first-person view optional moments in cutscenes which are cool.
A major crisis. The clock is ticking. Once we've confirmed the rescue of Sokolov, stand by at the recovery point. A recovery balloon will be
See bugger all through these.
Helium will be pumped into the balloon to inflate it. The process takes about 20 minutes. Once it's complete, the gunship's arm will latch onto the balloon and pull it up.
The Fulton surface-to-air recovery system. I'm familiar with the theory.
Take it easy. It's been combat-proven.
Do you think Sokolov is up to it?
The shock will be less than during a parachute jump, and the arm can handle up to 500 pounds.
So you're planning on going over the border in a single combat talon?
She's equipped with 2 6-barrel 20mm Vulcan cannons, as well as 2 40mm machine guns.
Sounds like she could hold her own against a battalion of tanks.
Even with the fuel in the reserve tank, we're facing a 4-hour time limit. If all goes well, it shouldn't take more than a few hours.
Home in time for dinner.
But if anything goes wrong, you'll be eating dinner, breakfast, and all the rest of your meals in the jungle.
Lovely. No pressure whatsoever then. And I never thought that parachuting in would be the most subtle of approaches, especially during the middle of the day, but I guess with the jungle being so big, it's just likely that there'd be no one around, and above the trees I guess you wouldn't be able to see that well if you were on the jungle floor, so what do I know about sneaking missions? Whoopsie, lost our bag. And landing in much the same way as our protagonist did in MGS2. We arrive in the Soviet jungle. Deep behind enemy lines, with only our basic equipment and our wits to help us. So we're playing as Jack, apparently, who looks an awful lot like Raiden, and Jack was also Raiden's name, so that's a little confusing. Okay, so, playing as Raiden. Let's head on into the jungle, shall we? I believe our first port of call is to retrieve our bag which we lost. And of course, there's going to be a codec conversation to start the game.
You copy? You're already in enemy territory, and somebody might be listening in. From here on out, we'll be using code names to refer to each other. Your code name for this mission will be Naked Snake. I'll be referring to you as Snake from now on.
Snake, eh?
Not to mention your real name.
Snake?
What, you don't like snakes?
What do you mean?
Well, you've eaten one before, haven't you?
In survival training?
I'm glad to hear that.
I don't know if I'd ever order one in a restaurant, but...
Be careful. You might not have a choice.
What about you, Major? What should I call you?
Let's see. I'll be Tom. Call me Major Tom. Oh, and Snake.
Yeah.
The crew isn't watching anymore. You can take off the disguise now.
Good idea. This isn't right. Time for the snake to shed his skin.
So no, we are not playing as Raiden, or a descendant of Raiden. Quite the opposite. We are playing as the man, the legend, Snake, the soldier who will one day be called Big Boss. And it says that on the back of the box, so don't worry, that's not a spoiler. This is, if anything, an origin story. We've already learned all about Solid Snake, where he came from. And now, we're going to learn about Big Boss. Arguably the most important character in Metal Gear Solid series.
Can you hear me, Major Tom? This is Snake. Kept you waiting, huh?
This will be a sneaking mission. You must not be seen by the enemy. You must leave no trace of your presence. Is that clear? This kind of infiltration is the Fox unit's speciality. In other words, weapons and equipment are procured on site. That goes for food as well. You're completely naked, just as your name implies.
Great. Now I see why you asked me if I like snakes. I suppose calling me Snake was your idea of a joke, too.
No, there's a good reason for that. I'll tell you later when the time is right.
Gotcha. Getting back to the subject, how exactly am I supposed to feed myself?
You've been issued a knife and a tranquilizer gun. Use them to hunt for food. You'll also find some medical supplies in your backpack.
Yeah, about the backpack. I lost it in a tree on the way down.
Awkward.
I see. Well, you'd better go back and get it then. You know where it is?
No problem. I can see it from here. It's stuck on a branch.
To climb a tree, stand in front of a tree that's covered in ivy and press the action button.
Yes, alright. Thank you, Mr. Tom, the tutorial.
Monitoring your progress over the radio. We can't risk violating Soviet airspace, but I'll be in the gunship. My frequency is 140.85. I'll give you a call if I need to talk to you. If you need to talk to me, use the send function. Okay, Snake, go get your backpack.
So picking that I like MGS2 at the start basically gives us the little Easter egg. We have Raiden's mask on, never really explains it, but yeah, we're not playing as Raiden this time, we are the badass himself, Solid Snake. No, not Solid Snake, Naked Snake. What an embarrassing mistake for me to have made there. So, as you can tell immediately, this game actually takes place mostly in a jungle environment, whereas we've obviously been in more sort of urban locations in the previous Metal Gear Solid games in MGS 1 and 2. So it's kind of interesting really that they went for this change up, and it does change the gameplay in some aspects quite significantly. Chiefly because we actually now have to worry not only about our life and things like that, but also our energy, which we replenish by eating food. So let's just grab our backpack, and I believe we will be immediately treated to another codec call. This game is nowhere near as bad as MGS2 for the frequency of radio calls,
Your backpack, Snake.
but the start does still have quite a lot of them, and cutscenes as well.
It's necessary to take it out of your backpack. In the survival viewer, choose Weapon from the backpack. Your available weapons will be displayed in a window in the upper left. From that list, choose the weapon you want to equip and press the Enter button. For other equipped items, just do the same thing from Item.
Got it. Use the survival viewer backpack.
Yep, that's right. Survival is fundamental to this mission. After you've been out in the field for a while, your stamina will start to drop. If your stamina gets too low, it'll affect your performance. You won't be able to shoot accurately, for example, and your wounds won't heal as smoothly. Keep an eye on your stamina so you don't run out. To
Will
recover
do.
lost stamina, you can hunt for local flora and fauna. You can use either your tranquilizer gun or your knife to hunt.
My only weapon is a Mark 22 Hush Puppy tranquilizer gun?
That's right.
See, that's the sort of question I'd have asked before I jumped out of the plane.
However, the suppressor will deteriorate every time you fire.
I'd have been like, can I not take something else with me?
Zero, the noise suppression effect.
Bit late now.
So don't get too trigger happy with it. The suppressor's durability is shown in the icon. Any weapons and equipment beyond what you're carrying now, you'll have to find as you go.
I have to find my own weapons and equipment? Whose crazy idea was this anyway?
Solo covert actions are standard Fox operating procedure. You can't leave any traces of your presence. No weapons, equipment, footprints, sweat, or bodily waste. The same goes for bullets and cartridges, too. Your presence in enemy territory is already a violation of international conventions of warfare. There aren't supposed to be any American soldiers in Russia. It could spark an international incident.
Well, we don't want that.
Anyone see you. You can't let the enemy know you're there. This is a stealth mission. You're a ghost, Snake, in every sense of the word. And there'll be no rescue if you're captured. The military and US government will deny any involvement in the affair.
Then I'll just have to take care of myself, huh?
I'm afraid so. You've been given a fake death pill for that purpose.
Lovely.
SAS guidelines stipulate that soldiers on covert ops like this one be issued a potassium cyanide capsule. Tape it to your body so you can take it when you need to.
How generous of you.
Use it if you're taken prisoner by the enemy. It'll send you into a state of false death for a short time.
Fooling them into thinking that I'm really dead. So how do I come back to life?
Just take the revival pill.
You mean that thing they put in my tooth before the mission?
That's the one. But be careful. If you remain in a state of false death for too long, nothing will be able to bring you back. Remember that.
I'll keep it in mind. You said this was a solo mission, right?
Right.
I guess that means I can't count on any reinforcements.
Correct. The mission rests entirely in your hands.
A real
No
one-man
pressure.
army.
Relax. There's a support team ready to back you up over the radio.
Who?
I'll introduce them to you. This time, survival is of utmost importance.
This time, is survival not always of the utmost importance? Every time?
Acting as a medic, so to speak, as well as recording your mission data. She's a member of Fox as well, and she's here on the gunship with me.
She.
Hello, Snake. I'm paramedic. Nice to meet you.
Paramedic.
As in a medic who comes in by parachute.
Aren't you going to tell me your real name?
Are you going to tell me yours, Mr. Snake?
My name, huh? It's John Doe.
And they call you Jack for short. You're a regular Captain Nemo.
A name means nothing on the battlefield. After a week, no one has a name. What's your name?
Jane Doe. I wasn't joking, but I'll tell you my name only if you manage to make it back alive. My frequency is 145.73.
She's also in charge of recording your mission data. Whenever you want to save, send a message over the reserved save frequency, 140.96.
So saving lets me record my mission data.
That's right. It also records the state of your health.
Good to know.
There's one more person I want to introduce you to, Snake.
Huh?
Speaking of snakes, you remember the boss, don't you? A legendary soldier and your mentor. Actually, it was the boss that got the DCI's authorization in the first place. She's going to be serving as Fox's mission advisor.
Boss is?
She also helped me plan this mission. She and I were at SAS together.
Jack, is that you? How many years has it been?
Boss?
That's right. It's me.
Snake's mentor, eh?
Let me hear your voice.
It's been 5 years, 72 days, and 18 hours.
Not that he misses her.
You can tell just by the sound of my voice.
Of course I can. I know all about you.
Really? Well, I don't know anything about you.
What's that supposed to mean?
Why'd you disappear on me all of a sudden?
I was on a top-secret mission. You didn't need me anymore.
But there were still so many things I wanted you to teach me.
No. I taught you everything you needed to know about fighting techniques. I taught you all I could. The rest you needed to learn on your own.
Techniques, sure. But what about how to think like a soldier?
How to think like a soldier? I can't teach you that. A soldier needs to be strong in spirit, body, and technique. And the only thing you can learn from someone else is technique. In fact, technique doesn't even matter. What's most important is spirit. Spirit and body are like two sides of a single coin. They're the same thing. I can't teach you how to think. You'll just have to figure it out for yourself. Listen to me, Jack. Just because soldiers are on the same side right now doesn't mean they always will be. Personal feelings about your comrades is one of the worst sins you can commit. Politics determine who you face on the battlefield. And politics are a living thing. They change along with the times. Yesterday's good might be tomorrow's evil.
Is that why you abandoned me?
No, it had
Oh
nothing to
dear,
do
he's not happy about her leaving,
I
is he?
already told you, Jack. I was on a top-secret mission. A soldier has to follow whatever orders he's given. It's not his place to question why. But you're looking for a reason to fight. You're a natural-born fighter, but you're not quite a soldier. A soldier is a political tool, nothing more. That's doubly true if he's a career soldier. Right and wrong have no place in his mission. He has no enemies and no friends. Only the mission. You follow the orders you're given. That's what being a soldier is.
I do whatever I have to get the job done. I don't think about politics.
That's not the same thing. Sooner or later, your conscience is going to bother you. In the end, you have to choose whether you're going to live as a soldier or just...
This is a very in-depth chat for the opening of the game, isn't it? All a bit philosophical.
Loyalty to the end. Do you know what it means?
Being patriotic.
It means devoting yourself to your country.
I follow the president and the top brass. I'm ready to die for them if necessary.
The president and the top brass won't be there forever. Once their terms are up, others will take their place.
I follow the will of the leader, no matter who's in charge.
People aren't the ones who dictate the missions.
Then who does?
The times. People's values change over time, and so do the leaders of a country. So there's no such thing as an enemy in absolute terms. The enemies we fight are only enemies in relative terms, constantly changing with the times. As long as we have loyalty to the end, there's no point in believing in anything, even in those we love.
And that's the way a soldier's supposed to think?
The only thing we can believe in with absolute certainty is the mission, Jack.
All right, but do me a favor.
What is it?
Call me Snake.
Snake.
Ooh,
Right.
burn.
Your code name is Snake. It suits you well.
That's right. The legendary unit that the boss put together during World War II was a snake. The Cobra unit, a group of heroes that brought the war to an end and saved the world.
Well then, lads.
A legendary hero backing you up, you'll be fine. Isn't that right, Snake?
Yeah, I can't think of anyone else I'd rather have with me. Oh, and one more thing, boss.
Yes?
It's good to hear your voice again.
Aw.
Same here. After all, who knows if either of us will make it out alive? Snake, you are always best at urban warfare and infiltrating buildings. But this is the jungle. Survival is going to be key. Those CQC techniques I taught you are sure to come in handy.
CQC? Close quarters combat, huh? I've been in the Green Berets for the past few years. I'm probably pretty rusty.
Not to worry. I'll be here to help you remember. After all, this is your first actual survival mission. I'll be supporting you over the radio.
Where are you, boss? Next to the Major?
The boss is communicating with us by radio from aboard a Permit-class submarine in the Arctic Ocean.
My frequency is 141.80. Call me if you need my advice on battle techniques.
Gotcha.
Your mission is to retrieve Dr. Sokolov. Dr. Sokolov is being held in an abandoned factory located to the north of your current position. Avoid heavy combat and don't let anyone see you. Don't forget that this is a stealth mission.
Okay.
Snake, try to remember some of the basics of CQC.
So for the first time we get ourselves a knife in the Metal Gear Solid games.
Commencing virtuous mission now.
Right, so cutscenes aside, we can actually get stuck into the game proper. So as the guys mentioned in the cutscene, Major Tom mentioned to us, we now actually have a limit on our suppressor, so you can see the sort of like a counter above our Mark 22, and basically that shows us how many suppressed shots we've got left, so it's not quite as powerful as the M9 in MGS2. And if you've got a keen eye, you may well have noticed we're not the only snake in this jungle. There is one here, and it's slithering towards me. Ugh, I hate snakes. And we can basically tranquilise that, save it for later, for another meal. Yum yum yum. And by tranquilising it, it means that the food will actually stay fresh for longer, which is a kind of neat touch. Anyway, this video's now gone on for about half an hour, so we'll have this as the introduction really. Get a trophy for ourselves, always nice. We'll have this as the introduction, and in the next video we will crack on with the virtuous mission proper. Thank you very much for joining me, folks. Don't forget to drop me a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and leave me any comments you've got as well. And of course, hit the subscribe button so you know as soon as the next part's out. Anyway, I've been LazierBandit, this has been Naked Snake, and we will see you in the next part to begin the virtuous mission. I'll see you then.